We've all heard it. Hungrybox is washed. The online era of Melee has not been great for him. He's arguably more of an Ultimate player now. Hey, it's no shade to him, people have priorities, and he's built himself a content empire over the past 18 months. But he did just get third at Summit, and he beat some of his bracket demons to get there. So it begs the question, against our better judgment, against everything our heart tells us, could an Ultimate player win Riptide?
Oh my god! Oh my fuck! Okay.
It's Hungrybox. We mean Hungrybox. It's been 18 months, and Summit has been our only window into the brave new meta of post-quarantine offline Melee, but buried in the data of Hungrybox's offline and online performances are some hints to how Melee's recently volatile top-ranked player will perform at his first multi-day major back. We're not saying it's definitely going to happen, but a lot of the signs are pointing in Hungrybox's direction. Sounds kinda wild, we know, but Melee's never been known to go by the book. Okay, sure, elephant in the room, Hungrybox isn't really an Ultimate player, but have you seen the numbers? Since April 2020, Hungrybox has played 2,181 Ultimate sets. He has played more tournaments, that's 377 in Ultimate, than he has played sets in Melee, that is 375. He's played more Ultimate sets in the average week of 29 than Melee sets in the average month of 22. He even has 5 PGRU wins, and one was even in person at Frostbite 2020. Arfang tried Young Link to meme. It didn't work. I mean, the guy was eligible for Summit for a reason. Okay, we'll chill out. But hopefully you get the point. Hungrybox's focus has been somewhere these past 17 months, and it's not Melee. Hbox's online career has been pretty good by most people's standards, but Hungrybox is not most people. He was, when the MPGR went on hold in 2020, the 3-time reigning world number 1. Let's take a look at some of the data that puts Hungrybox's online performance into perspective. Seed Performance Rating, or SPR for short, measures the difference between a player's actual performance and their seed projection in terms of losers rounds. +1 means you progressed 1 round farther in losers than your seed projection, while -1 means you lost 1 round before your seed projection. Across 48 Melee tournaments with seed data, Hungrybox had an overall -64 SPR, and his average tournament saw him finish 1.3 rounds behind his seed projection. Now, admittedly, part of the problem is it's hard to maintain your seed when you're so often seeded at 1 or 2, but we're talking about performance relative to expectation here, and this clearly is not the same Hungrybox. Dropping sets to strong players like Lucky, Nun, and Ginger is one thing, but Harry Pogger, Elliot, Whiskers? Again, we're not suggesting you bet your sweet channel points on Harry Pogger the next time these two meet, but there are some players who seem like substantially stronger bets against the world's reigning number 1 than they did a year and a half ago. Let's just remember how untouchable Hbox was from 2017 to 2019, the 3 full seasons he reigned as Melee's number 1. In that span, only one player had a winning record on Hungrybox, and it was Armada, who won their final set at SmashCon 2018 to go up 8-5 lifetime. One other player, Albert, at 1-1, is even. Every single other player who played Hungrybox over these 3 years had a losing record. And if you wanted to avoid a losing record on Hungrybox at this point in time, you either needed to be arguably the best player of all time and retire while still near your peak, or catch him off guard in a best-of-3, only to get washed in the run-back, only to never play him again. To put Hbox's relative humanity during the quarantine era into perspective, 15 players have winning records on Hungrybox since April 2020. Most of those are one-offs, even if they are somewhat shocking, but 3 players stand out, and they'll all be at Riptide: iBDW, Ginger, and Ben. More on them later. Okay, but what does this mean? These players have been on the grind. Surely they're better than they were the last time Hbox faced off against them in person. Given all that, we're left with a polarizing question though. Did Hungrybox really get worse in quarantine? The data from the past 18 months is pretty clear. His placements dropped, he lost more often, to more players and more characters. It's a slump that, if it were offline, would be completely unprecedented from a top-ranked player. It's too drastic of a change to ignore. But on the other hand, he did just get third at Summit, so maybe it's just offline play. Let's remember what we learned at Melee's first major offline tournament back just a few weeks ago. Not only did Hungrybox finish third, he did so as the 10th seed, giving him a +4 seed performance rating, his best SPR since 2015. Not that he usually has that opportunity, by the way. You can't really outplace your seed when you're seeded first. And it's not like he was just beating up on people who he's always beaten at Summit. First, it was Amsa, who defeated him 3-2 at Smash Summit 6 and Smash Summit 8, making Amsa just one of 6 active players with a Summit win on Hbox, and one of 2 with multiple Summit wins. Hbox fell behind 2-1 in the set, but was able to win it in 5 from behind. If Hbox was out here dropping sets to the like of Whiskers, wouldn't you expect Amsa to wipe the floor with him? And then there was iBDW, who was dominating this matchup through the quarantine era. Hbox was unfazed, controlling the set and taking it 3-1, including a big 3-stock. The other 3 players Hungrybox defeated at Summit, Kadora and Toussaint and Moki, were all winless against him offline entering the tournament, but had all also taken at least 1 set off of Hbox during the quarantine era. On Melee's biggest stage in ages, he took care of business against these players, just like we would have expected 18 months ago. It's not enough to say offline Hbox is just like the one who was #1 for 3 years running, but Summit sure made it look like we're closer to offline Hungrybox than the Hungrybox lagging behind in online brackets for a year and a half. Let's try to figure out why cutting the Ethernet cord makes such a big difference for him. Riptide will be the perfect test. It's the first multi-day Melee major since CEO Dreamland in March 2020. Not only will it be played in person, but Hbox will be playing without the weight on his shoulders that is Bluetooth headphones.
I should switch to a wired headset. Bluetooth headphones add 12 frames of audio delay, becomes impossible to react to Foxbot beside B. That's probably pretty important. I don't know that.
In a game where single frames routinely decide everything, those milliseconds of audio lag matter. And Hbox was playing with a whopping 12 frames of delay. But online and offline have nuances that go beyond the technical. Online play allowed players of various regions to get regular bracket sets against players they might otherwise share a bracket with once or twice a year. Lower stakes events, like weeklies, usually only see local competitors facing off against each other, and Hungrybox specifically is playing more low-stakes Melee than ever before, and that gives players every opportunity to cash in on huge upsets in tournaments that might just be more stream content to the Jigglypuff. Perhaps the most underrated aspect of the online-offline difference, though, is the character spread. Let's take a look at Hungrybox's win rates versus his most common opposing characters offline. No huge surprises. Sheik and Falco are what we want to focus on here. Hbox owns these characters offline, so what happens when we take it online? All of a sudden, Sheik and Falco are problem matchups. His win rate against Falco dropped 15 points, and his win rate against Sheik dropped an even more alarming 21 points. But even this doesn't tell the full story of how badly Hbox has dominated these characters offline before the pandemic. This chart shows the relative frequency with which Hbox faces each character. No huge surprise that Fox is the most common, then there's Falco right behind him, followed by Sheik and then Marth, with Falcon and Peach bringing up the rear. If Marth was a bit higher, this would basically be the newest tier list. Makes sense. Fox makes up 2/3 of Hungrybox's recorded offline opponents, with no other character even breaking 10%. What's that about? Well, Hungrybox has dominated top players to the point where pretty much all of them felt forced to switch to Fox to even stand a chance. Armada went off Peach, Plup went off Sheik, Mewtwo King went off Marth, even Mango went off Falco. Even more revealing than the fact that Falco and Sheik have poor win rates against Hungrybox offline is the fact that nobody, not even some of the best players of these characters in the world, is willing to use them against him in bracket. This is one of the questions that Riptide will hopefully answer. Does Hungrybox have a sudden weakness against Sheik and Falco, or was it really just online? Because the Hbox we used to know simply did not lose to these characters, a big factor behind his ability to dominate the scene for 3 years running. Whether or not that's still the case will be key in determining Hbox's post-quarantine fate, but 2 of his biggest online demons, Ginger and Ben, have been doing some serious damage with Falco and Sheik respectively, with a combined 17-9 record. In 3 sets prior to online, Ginger showed no resistance against Hungrybox, failing to win a single game. That's not really a shock. Hbox stomps Falco, representing a 45-12, that's 79% game record in our database, with winning records on all 7 of his opponents. In the quarantine era though, Ginger holds the set advantage 9-6, including a high-profile win at Smash Summit 10 Online, where Ginger eliminated Hbox in a 5-game set. Another Midwest player was even more dominant against Hungrybox in the quarantine era, Ben, the Rising Sheik from Minnesota. Ben owns an 8-3 record against Hungrybox, including a 5-set winning streak all online. This is a particularly big one. If Ben can make a couple of seeding upsets at Riptide, he would be in line for a winner-side clash with Hungrybox. The numbers show that Hungrybox destroys Sheik even harder than Falco. In 77 offline games with character data in our database, Hungrybox is 66-11, that's 85.7%, and since games with character data tend to be later in the bracket, his real win rate against Sheik is likely even higher. He hasn't lost a set to the character since our database begins in 2015. Online, it's not even that different. Remove Ben's games and Hbox is 69, nice, and 23, 75%, with a winning record against all 17 of his other Sheik foes. Ben is making the matchup look possible in a way nobody has in years. And while it certainly won't be the same offline, Ben did prove his online record wasn't a fluke at Hold That L6, where he finished second to Ginger, taking sets off Dreffin, Zamu, and Polish. Okay, so let's go back. Can an Ultimate player win Riptide Melee? There are still a number of obstacles in the way. Hungrybox lost to Wizrobe at Summit, and he also lost to him back at Smash and Splash 5. Luckily for Hbox, Wizzy is on the other side of the bracket, and it's possible Hbox could dodge him entirely. iBDW has been a thorn in Hbox's side since before quarantine. He eliminated Hungrybox from Smash Summit 8 in 2019, offline. But the quarantine era saw iBDW take over in the matchup. Perhaps that wasn't surprising though. Cody was on the rise and always felt comfortable against Jigglypuff. He is positive on every single one of his 9 Jigglypuff opponents according to the PGStats.com database. But it's hard to deny the dominance. iBDW was 10-3 on Hungrybox in the quarantine era. That includes a 7-match winning streak that was only broken at Summit this past month, and to make matters worse, iBDW is in Hungrybox's projected Riptide bracket. And then there's the Midwest local power, Ben and Ginger, 2 of Hungrybox's biggest threats over the online era, will be at Riptide on their home turf. The energy in the building will certainly favor them. The data is clear. A lot of Hungrybox's struggles back in the online era were really all about the era. It was a time that favored Falco and Sheik, 2 characters he historically stomps offline and contributed to most of his disappointments online. It was an era in which his opponents had far more to play for than he did. And he played through it all on wireless headphones with over a 1/10 of a second of audio delay. Spoiler alert, that is obscene. With no Zane in the way, Hungrybox's path to the title is clear. Most of the players with the ability to stop his run will have to do so with a character he hasn't lost to offline in Melee's modern era. So yeah, he might be an Ultimate player now. He might have looked a little washed up over the past 18 months. But make no mistake, Hungrybox deserves to be the top seed at Riptide. And when all is said and done this weekend, he's the one most likely to be holding the trophy. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and follow us at PG Stats on Twitter for more Smash content. This has been Turned Down for Walt. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.